Hello there, good evening and welcome. This is ABUJA Dispatch, and if you are just joining us for the first time, you are welcome on board. This is a rare platform where we try to bring to your living rooms those events, issues, and indeed those characters that have shaped the entire socio-economic landscape of the federal capital city, Abuja, in the last 7 days. Adegboyega Arogodo is my name. Let's start off with those stories that made up our news headlines in the outgoing week.
President Muhammadu Buhari has reinstated his administration's commitment to continue re-equipping the Nigerian military in its quest to respond to national security imperatives. Buhari made this known during the induction ceremony of Nigerian Air Force 2 Augusta 109E power gunships and Mi-171E combat helicopters at the Eagle Square in Abuja. He said the air platforms, which was assembled in the country, is geared towards boosting operational efficiency of air power in counterinsurgency and terrorism efforts to tackle the menace. The president noted that protecting nation's sovereignty cannot be stressed enough, as it's critical to national growth and development. He further charged the armed forces and other security agencies to remain resolute in the fight against terrorism and forms of criminality across the country. Chief of the Air Staff, Air Marshal Sadiq Abubakar, expressed readiness to contain any forms of security threats bedeviling the nation in line with the force's constitutional mandate. So far, from 2015 to date, 49 air platforms have been inducted into the Nigerian Air Force flight by President Muhammadu Buhari. The federal government will soon commence a forensic audit of the Niger Delta Development Commission (NDDC) as a way of streamlining its activities for the overall benefit of the people in the region. Minister of Niger Delta, Godswill Akpabio, revealed this few hours ago while briefing State House media on the resolutions reached during the 8-hour Federal Executive Council meeting, which was presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari in Abuja. The minister said his ministry is committed to keeping the existing peace in the region as a way of fostering sustainable development in the oil-rich region. Meanwhile, the minister assured that all acts of pipeline vandalism, often caused by youth restiveness, are being addressed, as this has remained a contributory factor causing environmental degradation in the area. Meanwhile, plans have been concluded by the Federal Ministry of Education for the procurement of textbooks for primary and junior secondary schools across the country. The exercise, which was announced by the Minister of Education Adamu, will gap 6.4 billion naira, and it is expected to be completed in 6 weeks. The Nigerian Senate has inaugurated a 56-member Constitution Review Committee headed by Deputy Senate President Senator Ovi Omoagege. President of the Senate Hamid Lawan read out the list of the committee's members at plenary. Accordingly, one lawmaker will represent each state of the federation, while 2 senators will be representing the 6 geopolitical zones. Meanwhile, a bill for an act to provide for the establishment of a Fiscal Responsibility Commission has passed second reading on the floor of the Senate. The bill, which is sponsored by Adamawa Central Senator Aisha Dahiru, seeks to ensure prudent management of the nation's resources as well as secure accountability in fiscal operations. Deputy Senate President Ovie Omoagege referred the bill to the Senate Committee on Finance for further legislative work and to report back in 4 weeks. The Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) has deregistered 74 political parties for failure to meet the requirements as stipulated in the Electoral Act. INEC Chairman Professor Mahmood Yakubu disclosed this while briefing the media at the Commission's headquarters in Abuja. He said this exercise now reduces to only 18 the number of political parties in the country after carrying out proper review of their performance in the 2019 general elections. Professor Mahmood further added that the Commission will not relent in ensuring the electoral guidelines are strictly adhered to by political parties. Meanwhile, the Electoral Commission has announced the dates for the governorship elections in Edo and Ondo states as Saturday, September 19th and October 10th, 2020, respectively. The Supreme Court today dismissed as lacking in merit an appeal by Heineken Lokpobiri seeking the disqualification of Bayelsa State Governor-elect David Leon on grounds that he did not win the APC governorship primary. A 5-member panel of the Apex Court upheld the decision of a lower court that the said petition filed by the former Minister of State for Agriculture was done outside the 14-day period stipulated for attending to grievances from pre-election matters. Lokpobiri had approached the Supreme Court to overturn a Port Harcourt Appeal Court decision that an appeal filed at the Federal High Court was done outside the 14-day period. Justice Inyang Okoro, who read the judgment, stated that the cause of action was on 4th September 2019 when the Bayelsa APC governorship primary election was held and the result announced, with Leon declared winner, and not 7th September when his name was submitted to INEC.
Welcome back. When we speak of the Nigerian energy sector crisis, we refer to the ongoing failure of the nation's power sector to provide adequate electricity supply for domestic households and industrial needs. Despite a rapidly growing economy, with some of the world's largest deposits of coal, oil and gas, and the country's status as Africa's largest oil producer, the appalling state of electricity sector remains unresolved. This is the thrust of our discourse on Dateline this week. Stay with us.
Presently, 76 million Nigerians, or 40.7% of the Nigerian population, are not connected to the national power grid. For those connected, power supply is a serious problem as approximately 90% of total power demanded is not supplied. Here is the problem. Presently, total installed generation capacity is 12,522 megawatts, but average operational generation capacity is 3,879 megawatts, of which 7.4% is lost in transmission and up to 27.7% load is rejected at distribution. This leaves Nigeria with just about 2,519 megawatts. Yet, Nigeria's electricity demand is estimated at 24,380 megawatts in 2015. In 2013, 2 segments of Nigeria's power sector, generation and distribution, were privatized to resolve the challenges associated with the prior monopoly of government in the power generation, transmission and distribution chain. However, as it were, privatization only changed the dimensions of the challenges, and power supply remains largely inadequate, unaffordable and unreliable in the country.
The rate of unemployment today in this country is caused by the lack of power. When I mean power, I'm talking about both the generation and the transmission. And government looked at it. I think during the Obasanjo regime, they looked at NEPA and they unbundled it, they commercialized it. And despite that, I've not seen any improvement in terms of capacity and in terms of outputs. And this has caused most of our industries to shut down.
With all the natural endowments that we should have in order to generate power, we are not using it. And that's why I say whether there is some collusion with the foreign companies that are benefiting from Nigeria's lack of power, provision of power for the populace. Those companies that are manufacturing gensets have found Nigeria a very big market.
Despite having a far larger population, Nigeria generates less electricity relative to other major African economies and failed to expand its power generation along with its growing population. For instance, South Africa, with a population of 48 million, generated 35,000 megawatts out of an installed capacity of 52,000 megawatts in 2015. Some of the key challenges include infrastructure constraints across the entire value chain from fuel to power distribution chain, including undiversified energy sources for electricity, 80% thermal and 20% hydro, insufficient gas pipelines, obsolete generation plants and equipment, as well as inadequate and poorly maintained transmission and distribution networks, or worsened by vandalization.
There will be need for this government also to put power generation into the emergency class. We should declare emergency in power, because if we are able to meet our power needs, there will be more industries working, and there will be less unemployment.
Nigerian government and private sector are making efforts to address key challenges in the Nigerian electricity supply industry. NESI. The efforts are slow-paced and insufficient. For instance, the government has inaugurated several projects aimed at expanding thermal and hydro sources, as well as extended 2 intervention facilities to GENCOs and DISCOs to ease their financial constraints. DISCOs have also embarked on mass metering of consumers, as well as implemented maintenance and upgrades on their network by installing new transformers and building dedicated lines to commercial and industrial customers over the past years to reduce these losses and enhance service delivery. However, the investments are marginal compared to existing deficits and targets.
Government have not done what they should do. That is, this is squarely government business. It's not private sector thing. It is purely government, because this issue is, if you go into the Constitution of Nigeria and the exclusive legislative list, part of it is power. They determine whatever thing good, everything. So government has not done enough to get Nigeria to have the type of the power supply we should as a country. We want the policy makers, the minister for power, to see what he's going to do to ensure that we move from where we are, the sorry place where we are, to the place where we want to get Nigerians to be.
To enhance the effectiveness of service delivery in the electricity sector, several interventions are needed to attract significant private sector capital. Specifically, operational and technical interventions are needed to improve baseline power supply using data-driven, innovative on- and off-grid solutions, improve transmission wheeling capacity, redundancy, and many more, as well as improve grid design and electricity demand estimation. Governance intervention is also necessary to improve sector governance and transparency, to make contracts fully effective, as well as to improve sector communication, coordination, and monitoring.
Thanks for staying with us. In many developing democracies all over the world, the state of infrastructural development is the basis of measuring the performance of political leaders. Between 2015 and 2019, the APC-led administration scored itself high as having surpassed many administrations before it in terms of budgetary allocations for infrastructural growth. In our next segment, Split Views, we feature the Minister of Works and Housing, Mr. Babatunde Raji Fashola, as he read out the various achievements of the present administration towards bridging the gaps of infrastructural deficits in the country in the recent years. Stay with us. Many people believe that your ministry is core when it comes to estimating the performance of this government. And can you please give us kind of highlights of your ministerial briefing? I mean, what are those bullet points?
Yeah, every ministry is important, because in this chain of interactions, no one ministry can go out on an island and say, I am the Alpha and the Omega.
One of the drivers of the economy is government spending on infrastructure. And that affects ease of doing business, cost of travel, reduction in travel time, getting goods to market, saving costs on fuel, saving costs on time, and so on and so forth. So along these lines, what do we have? Between that period, we have the Sukuk routes, 28 of them. We've done 634 kilometers of road network in that period across the 28 routes. If you look at highways, we have 514 highways. We've done 826 kilometers of highways that have reached the wearing cost. That's the final level across. If you aggregate what is going on those 514 highway contracts. That's what we've done, 826 kilometers. There are other levels that are not even measured, those that are at binder course, those that are at stone bay that have been finished. But what's important is to talk about some of the numbers. On those 826 kilometers, we created 49,080 direct jobs, and we created 95,315 indirect jobs. These are suppliers and all of that who prosper in construction environment. We also have to record FEMA's target. FEMA achieved 660 kilometers in the aggregate nationwide between August and December of 2019. All roads replaced, repaired, because their core job is maintenance. So, and we will see this in terms of the experience of people who travel over December. Some of the roads and Bar, Benin, and all of those areas have received some attention, and that's FEMA's work.
Talk about all your other agencies. We have mortgage agency, federal housing agency. How have been their impacts?
No, I was going to go there. Okay, so Federal Mortgage Bank is the government agency for dealing with housing finance and access to credit for housing. So they work under the Ministry of Works and Housing. So what have they been doing? Between 2015 and 2019, they issued 5,301 mortgages over the 4 years. But specifically, between August and December, they issued 220 mortgages worth 1.9 billion. So all those who got mortgages got access to credit. Now, as you get access to credit, either to own a home or whatever, you are stepping away from poverty. You're taking your first step onto the ladder of prosperity. Now, the same bank also issues what they call home renovation loans. This hasn't been in the news. In 4 years, 2015 to now, they issued 42,037 home renovation loans, valued at 34.25 billion. But in the period between August and December, Federal Mortgage Bank issued 10,051 home renovation loans. So 10,051 people benefited, and that amounted to 8.5 billion. Again, these are steps away from poverty to prosperity, because the president's target and goal is not measured in only how many people are employed. He didn't say we were going to employ 100 million people. Contrary to, so when we build a road and the value of your house improves, and estate valuers will tell you that infrastructure leads to capital appreciation of house by about 30-40%. You are one of those 100 million people who are benefiting, either as a landowner or as a landlord, because the value of your asset has gone up, the sale price has gone up, the rental income you get has gone up, the amount of credit you can raise by that asset has increased. So these are some of the real economic drivers that the president is really focused on. But apart from that, Federal Mortgage Bank also funds housing development, funds estate developers. So in the period under reckoning, we have 15 housing projects funded between August and December that will deliver 581 housing units. But there are 43 housing projects comprising 4,624 housing units that we plan to finish in 2020. There is also the impact on schools. We are in 43 federal government-owned tertiary institutions where the internal roads have not been attended to for about 2 decades. So we are constructing those internal roads, providing drainage, lane marking, sidewalk for students. These are important investments in education, but they are being executed from works budget. So about 10 of them are ready, and we will soon start the ceremonials related to that. But there is also the constituency projects, the zonal intervention projects, and the sustainable development goals project. And that's very, very important to talk about. Those are projects sponsored by members of the National Assembly but domiciled in specialist ministries to implement. We set up a unit called the Special Projects Unit since 2016 to actually help to supervise and deliver on this. Those projects cover skill centers, health centers, primary schools, community halls, markets, boreholes, very important. So when you look at all of those things, they impact the Human Development Index. Those are the measures of poverty.
The issue of financing infrastructure is key. That most times, the finance is not just there. Now, how has the government really been able to, match this together and still be, giving some of these folks that just mentioned?
Okay, first of all, the kind of infrastructure we're talking about are massive projects, really, really massive projects. So, if you look at the second Niger bridge, for example, that's an asset that lasts for about 100 years and more properly maintained. So you're talking about almost $2 billion, if I recall. Lagos Ibadan Expressway is in the order of 300 billion naira. ABUJA Kano is in the order of 155 billion naira. The Bodo Body Bridge is in the order of 120 billion naira. So these are massive projects. How many countries in Africa are doing this kind of projects? How many? So, and we are carrying this on deficit budget, which means that you have to borrow or find another way to raise the money. You don't want to overtax your people. So even the VAT that government is raising, only 15% of what accrues VAT is coming to government. And so you see the president again driving his commitment, using his assets, income from and investments from sovereign wealth fund. These are kind of hybrids of PPPs, using tax credit schemes and saying that look, big companies who pay large taxes to government, are you able to advance your tax so that we can quickly do this infrastructure, which affects your business anyway. But if you do it, the public must be able to use it. If that happens, then we would allow you to defray back this from the taxes. But these are some of the innovative schemes that has helped. Of course, also raising money from the private sector, the Sukuk, and I told you we have about 28 roads or so there under that program. So, and then of course, direct funding from budget. So it's a hybrid of so many things going, but it's still, I wish we had more. I think that between the Ministry of Works and Housing, the Ministry of Transportation, the Ministry of Aviation, and the MP, I think if government can dedicate and spend about $1 trillion between those four agencies over the next 2 years per annum, we will see a massive difference.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
As a system of power and social organization, democracy fosters an environment of openness, transparency, and liberty needed to espouse our ideas on virtually any subject matter under the sun. It gives citizens voice and makes their opinion the basis of governance. This is because it is only democracy that compels the tolerance and blossoming of those who disagreed with it. Not the least important, democracy brings change without violence and blood. We should therefore all work to support democracy in order to sustain and develop it. We have a greater future in democracy, just as democracy has a greater future in us.
That is our package this week on Abuja Dispatch. For further information, suggestions, and comments, You can reach us out on our various social media platforms. Thanks for allowing us to share your moments tonight on Abuja Dispatch. If you enjoyed tonight's episode, a week from now we'll bring you another refreshing package. Same time, same station. Adegboyega Arogbodo is my name. Have a good night.